excited for our reading with Robert and Chip. And we're going to start our reading off with Robert. Robert Okaji. Although Robert Okaji earned an undergraduate degree in history, he somehow garnered a reputation as a numbers guy and was employed as such for many years. In 2014, his poetry was featured in Boston Review's National Poetry Month celebration, and his chapbook, If Your Matter Could Reform, was published this past April as Dink Press's initial offering in its National Poetry Month series. His work has also appeared in such publications as Flayed Song, Four Ties Lit Review, Extracts, Silver Birch Press, and Crime Number Magazine, among others, and the micro chapbook, You Break What Falls, has recently been released by the Origami Poems Project. Please give a warm welcome to Robert.
Good evening. I'd like to thank Malvern Books for hosting this event and for inviting me to participate. I'm thrilled to be reading in my favorite Austin bookstore. Apparently I was a bit nervous about this reading. I had some dreams this past week, one of which featured heckling and throwing of objects. So I'm prepared for the heckling, but if you have to throw objects, please save that for Chip. I think he's more agile than I am. I'm going to start with the opening poem in my chapbook. It's called Wind. That it shudders through and presages an untimely end. That it transforms the night's body and leaves us breathless and wanting, petals strewn about, messenger and message in one, corporeal hosts entwined. That it moves, that it blends, that it withdraws and returns without remorse, without foresight. That increases, expands, subtracts, renders, imposes, and releases in one quick breath, saying, I cannot feel what I touch. I cannot feel. In the second poem, umeboshi is mentioned. It's a Japanese delicacy, commonly called a pickled plum. It's red and shriveled and isn't very appealing to look at. So this is called Self-Portrait with Umeboshi. Our resemblance strengthens each day. Reddened by sun and shiso, seasoned with salt, we preside, finding comfort in failure. Or does the subjugation of one's flavor for another's define defeat? The bitter, the sour, the sweet attract and repel like lovers separated by distances too subtle to see. Filling space becomes the end. What do you learn when you look through the glass? Knowing my fate, I say fallen, I say earth. Nine ways of shaping the moon. This is for Lissa. 1. Tilt your head and laugh until the night bends and I see only you. 2. Weave the wind into a song. Rub its fabric over your skin. For whom does it speak? 3. Remove all stars and streetlights. Remove thought, remove voice, remove me, but do not remove yourself. 4. Tear the clouds into threads and place them in layered circles. Then breathe slowly into my ear. 5. Drink deeply. Raise your eyes to the brightness above the cedars. Observe their motion through the empty glass. Repeat. 6. Talk music to me. Talk conspiracies and food and dogs and rain. Do this under the wild night sky. 7. Harvest red pollen from the trees. Cast it about the room and look through the haze. 8. From the bed, gaze into the mirror. The reflection you see is the darkness absorbing your glow. 9. Fold the light around us and listen. You are the moon in whose waters I would gladly drown. Bone music. A thought as the waters hasten. My friend looked to the sky, linking his view with mine. But how to reconcile the difference? Consider drag force, velocity at impact, position, surface tension, gravity. I drink more wine and drift, trying to recall that last conversation. Those few sentences revised in the moment, exhaled and consumed in passing. It's likely that fractured ribs lacerated the heart and lungs, or severed major arteries. Sometimes words evaporate, leaving behind only the faintest residue. Or they might absorb the ocean's power, the beauty, the blackness of the deepest nocturnal canyon, or the weight of a dying high-mass star's core, crushing any deliberation, any attribution, with remorse. Sky above, the earth below, silvered leaves, a shared moon, the spluttering from great heights, the outward thrust, the shearing, a fluttering within. Each morning I acknowledge pain and fear, refleshing the night's bones phrase by delicate phrase into numinous forms greater than their divisible parts, their intractable sums, into bodies and shapes extracted through a moment's glimpse, brief afterthoughts groaned across the opening blue, saying I was right. I admit inaction. I confess it all. Water, water. I knew too little. This next one was written during the height of the drought. In praise of rain, which is not to say lightning or hail. Sometimes I forget to open the umbrella until my glasses remind me, wake up, you're wet. If scarcity breeds value, what is a thunderhead worth in July? A light shower in August. Even spreadsheets can't tell us. Rainforest Bridge. To cross, you must first trust the strands to hold. The second tentative step precedes the next, each successive one gaining strength. Here to there, now to then, a summoning of entreaties within one's faith. The vapor meets cooler air, forming droplets, clouding the far side. I have feared endings and the strictures of the unseen, but here, in this vast swaying, I know one line bisects the void. Snail sex is really interesting. I mention this only because the subject somehow inserted itself into the poem, but evidently snails are nearsighted, and one of the rituals they perform is to shoot love darts into each other before mating, but in part due to their bad eyesight, their aim is often off. This island is a stone. Raking the sand, I leave only the infinite trickling behind. Our first bed bore your parents' memories. This one grows weeds. The heavenly bamboo, a shrub and not a grass, issues white petals and inedible red fruit. My fingertip calluses have softened from disuse. Coyotes no longer answer my yips and howls. Who replies to liars anyway? A snail's love dart impales the object of its affection, but often inconveniently. This is not a metaphor for bad sex, but a means of transferring an allo hormone. Today, the overburdened creeks erode their banks, and 492 seconds after departing the sun, a ray greets my lawn. I snap the towel at the fly on the door, but miss again. The once sacred now lies open and emptied. A few months ago, my father could not remember my birth date, although he recognized the season. Some totals may never satisfy. If I collect my life's accumulated wastings, will that sum temper me or merely accentuate the fool? Nothing is as it seems. We mark our remaining days with unread books. These waves are plotted creases. This island is a stone. In this next poem, I mention sakura, which is the Japanese cherry tree of the famous blossoms. It's also the title of a traditional Japanese song. Ashes. To sweeten the dish, add salt. To bear the pain, render the insoluble. She envied the past its incursions, yet the past yields to all. Avoidance to acceptance, trees to smoke. My mother brought to this country a token of her death to come. Now it sits on my shelf bearing implements of music. In her last days, I played sakura on the mandolin, trusting that she might find comfort in the blossoms fluttering through the failing notes, a return to mornings of tea and rice, of warmth and paper walls and deep laughter. Today, the rain spells forgive, and every idea becomes form, every shadow a symptom, each gesture a word, a naming in silence. Scatter me in air I've never breathed. I'm interested in language, in the development of written language. And in this poem, I refer to some characters. For instance, bull's horns, which refer to the Phoenician character from which our letter A evidently developed. Their horns are up like this, though, and of course our A is like that. But anyway, just a small explanation. At sunrise, we celebrate the night's passage and discuss not the darkness of crows, but the structure of phonemes embedded in our names, the gratitude of old fences, of broken circles and extinguished flame. 2 weeks ago, he poured wine and declared himself dog. There are roosters, too, who cannot crow, other speechless men, and lonely burrows guarding brush piles. What letters form silence? From what shapes do we draw this day? Light filters through the cedars and minutes retract as the bull's horns point first this way, then that, lowering themselves through the millennia, becoming finally A as we know it. With my tongue, I probe the space emptied of tooth. Barbed wire was designed to repel, but when cut, sometimes curls and grabs, relinquishing its hold only by force or careful negotiation. Symbols represent these distinct units of sound. My name is two houses surrounding an eye. Yours consists of teeth, the bull, an arm, the ox goad. This is my last poem. It's an unpublished one that's circulating out there in the world, maybe someday. Mother's Day. The dog is my shadow, and I fear his loss. My loss. I cook for him daily in hopes of retaining him. Each regret is a thread woven around the oak's branches. Each day lived is one less to live. Soon the rabbits will be safe, and the squirrels. as if they were not. One morning, I'll greet an empty space and walk alone, toss the ball into the yard where it will remain. It is Mother's Day. Why did I not weep at my mother's grave? I unravel the threads and place them around the dog. The wind carries them aloft. Thank you.